Welcome to TAM Studio. I am Joseph Ian Romero, Technical Account Manager for Genesis Cloud CX. Today's topic is a two-part review of the recently released new feature within Genesis Cloud, the Advanced Architect Execution Data. The first part, which I will be discussing today, is more of an overview and configuration of the historical execution data and storage, while the other part focuses on the new Architect Replay mode, which will be reviewed by my colleague, Rebecca Harper. It is an interesting architect tool primarily for troubleshooting and debugging purposes. With the release of historical execution data, Genesis Cloud offers access to comprehensive historical execution data for all architect flow types. These advanced capabilities in historical data analysis provide admin or developer to enable different log levels so that contact centers and flow authors can get a big picture or granular insights to make informed decisions and improve customer experience. These new options give users more granular control over how they use historical execution data and enables them to better understand user journeys and improve and troubleshoot their flows. Execution data storage is disabled by default. To start capturing execution data, it must be enabled and flows needs to be republished. Enabling execution data storage can be toggled from the admin panel under organization settings under the execution data section. To enable logging for architect flows, toggle the corresponding action under execution data storage. Also note that by enabling data storage, this will allow logging of data, including sensitive information. Users can select from four data level controls to which type of data are logged by an execution data reporter, in this case, a flow runtime engine. Flow runtime engines are expected to get log level settings to use for the execution of the flow when a flow starts. As such, changes to a flow's log level should not impact currently running flows or completed flows. Also, updates to log levels may not take immediately. The different data log levels are as follows. The first one, which is the base level. This is also the default level for all flow type, which provides high-level user journey through architect actions and navigated menus, such as top-level data like ID, type, and output path information. It also contains errors and warning events. The second level, which is notes. This contains everything from the base level plus other events and optimized architect flows using variable values. The next level is the verbose notes. This includes data from the notes level plus access to conversation content with communication values. And the final level, which is all. This includes everything from verbose note with the addition of troubleshooting through action, input, and output values. An important note to consider as well when choosing which data logging level to choose from is that historical execution data counts toward your organization's data storage limit under the Genesis Cloud Fair Use policy. Administrators and developers can access historical flow execution data via the Genesis Cloud Platform API, Architect Replay Mode, Architect Flow Insights, and the Genesis Cloud Notification Service. Before proceeding further, please also take note of the following prerequisites and permissions required for certain actions. You may visit our Resource Center's Historical Execution Data Overview article for further information. Once execution data storage is enabled, as well as architect flows, execution data flows level can be set from one organization or a per flow level. This slide demonstrates how to set execution data flow level for the organization. This is done from the admin panel under Architect. On the upper right-hand side under Help, select Execution Data Flows level. The Set Execution Data Level for Flows window appears, from which you can choose not to track execution data or select from four different levels of execution data granularity. In this sample, we will set it to Verbose Notes, then click Save. This is then applied to all the architect flows. This slide demonstrates the ability to set and override organization-wide execution data level for an individual flow. This is also done from the admin panel under Architect. Tick the checkbox next to the flow that you want to override the organization-wide execution data level for. Click Execution Data. The Override Execution Data Flow level window appears. Choose whether not to track execution data or select from the four different levels of execution data granularity. For this sample, we will set the data logging to base level for this flow only, then click Save. Setting data level at a flow level can only be done for one flow at a time. Genesis Cloud offers some additional features in Architect that can be used to get execution history data from previously executed flows. They are the following. Flow execution history to view the detailed status of previously executed flows. Query Builder. This is to query historical flow execution data and retrieve instances of flows whose execution meets different criteria. You can also view the setting that values on an architect action resolved to a runtime. Replay mode is used to play back the flow instance of data of architect flows to debug and troubleshoot. And finally, the architect flow insights toggle to view the frequency of previously executed actions as a flow insights overlay in a Genesis Dialog Engine bot flow or a Genesis Digital bot flow. A quick demonstration on how to use the flow criteria to build a query and generate a list of associated flow instances. You can only search by one criteria item at a time. In this demo, we will be using the conversation ID as the criteria to identify the flows that were invoked in the process. A list of flow instances and details about each flow instance, including name, version, type, start date, and end date, appears in the results section. Clicking one of the flow opens the replay mode. This is viable for troubleshooting and debugging purposes. In line with this new feature, you may also take note of the following limitations with the historical execution data. Genesis Cloud stores historical flow execution data for 10 days only. Genesis Cloud supports returning a maximum of 200 execution data instances per query. It is important to note that Genesis Cloud cannot guarantee that the query returns the most recent 200 execution instances. Genesis Cloud does not store the historical execution data of flows that run longer than 3 days. In call flows, Genesis Cloud reports only the first 4,500 action executions. As common module flows are embedded in the parent flows and do not run on their own, you can get execution data for them only as part of the invoking or parent flow's historical execution data. Genesis Cloud can store value in execution data based on the following size limit. For JSON, it has a maximum of 1,000 characters. For string, maximum of 253 characters. And for collection data types, a maximum of 20 items. Genesis Cloud only allows reporting data at the base level for execution instances of secure flows. For example, bot flows that run in a secure session, regardless of the execution data setting of your organization or the specific secure bot flows. It is not possible to query execution data for flow instances by start or end date time. To narrow the scope of responses, Genesis Cloud recommends that you rely on conversation ID instead. Aggregate data, such as counts of the number of times that an action runs during a flow, is not supported. And lastly, you can only view flow execution data for published flows. To ensure that you capture the most recent execution data, make sure that you republish the flow and set an interaction through it before you run a query. This concludes my presentation about the new historical execution data feature within Genesis Cloud. Don't forget to visit Rebecca Harper's feature review regarding the Architect replay mode for a more in-depth discussion and detail. For questions and concerns, you may send it at tamstudios@genesis.com. Thank you, and catch you in the next episode of Tam Studios.